1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome into another episode of the Talkin G-MAC podcast, our first podcast of 2026. So we're glad to be back after the holiday break and after a lot of things going on in the Division II landscape. Just finishing up with NCAA convention last week. A huge voting agenda on the D2 space. We won't get into much of that on this podcast today, but if you are interested in some of the changes that have been made, you can find some of that information on ncaa.org and some of that information on our website as well. But definitely some interesting stuff going on in that landscape, and some stuff that could potentially have implications on the entire landscape of college athletics. So encourage you to take a look and educate yourself on kind of what's been going on in that landscape last week in Washington. But the best thing, I think, about what happened in Washington last week, if you've been a listener to this podcast, you've heard about the Award of Excellence because we have been fortunate enough to have a finalist or multiple finalists for the award over the last several years. And uh, it's kind of become synonymous, one school, with this award of excellence, because they have been a finalist for several years in a row. But their hard work has finally paid off, and we have an award of excellence first place finisher out of the 2026 convention. So I am so pleased to welcome Sophia Rosa, the SAC president at Walsh University, to the pod today. Sophia, congratulations to you all and Walsh University on being the Award of Excellence winners for 2026.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here and kind of shed some light as to what we've been able to do. And I can just say right off the bat that, like, the campus community, I mean, we really have been soaking it up. It's been a truly humbling and really rewarding experience, and we've just enjoyed every step of this process.
Well, I mentioned, I think it's maybe 8 or 9 years in a row that you guys have been finalists. It's something that I think you all at Walsh, and especially within the SAC program, really hang your hats on in the athletic department, is this community service project and putting yourself in a position to be a finalist for this award. And for those who aren't familiar, the Award of Excellence is a community service award that's given at the Division II level every year at NCAA convention, and schools are given the opportunity to submit uh, projects or initiatives that they have started on campus and in their community. And Walsh has been somebody that's been persistent and has consistently come up as an award finalist over the years. But we're so happy to have seen you all and your hard work celebrated this past week in Washington, D.C., getting honored as the first place winners of this award. So, I'm going to let you explain a little bit about what you all did, but I also want you to explain about where the idea came from. So the Cav Salute initiative, and as its name kind of rings true, it was an initiative to honor veterans. So can you tell us a little bit about maybe how the idea came about? I know SAC was really instrumental in getting this started within all of the athletic programs on campus. And then we'll get into a little bit more about all the activities that you all did over the last year to celebrate and honor as part of the Cav Salute.
Yeah, for sure. So every year, like you said, we've come up with some really great ideas and really great things to build on. And I really do think we have such a creative mindset here at Walsh to be able to do those things and to be able to tap into different communities and populations and things. In doing this year's, campaign for our Award of Excellence and our initiative this year, I mean, Walsh has always been a very, very strong, pro-military, military-based school. Our very own president is a Air Force veteran. Hearing his stories are just so cool. And even just those little informal things, I think we kind of realized, and, maybe one or two people came to us with ideas between advisors and students and board members and stuff. We have such a strong military background here, and such a strong military community, even in the Stark County area. Why not tap into that community and really show them the support and, them making the ultimate sacrifice for us. We have a lot of, like I said, strong military connections on campus, and, just kind of working through logistics and what this could potentially look like with a few of those figures, Ruiz being very instrumental in that. Um, we really made something special, and it's something I'll be proud of forever.
Well, there's so many things as I was reading, obviously was aware of some of the things that you all were doing as you were doing them because I work with our SACs pretty closely, but maybe hit the high points. I know there were a lot of things that you guys did, a lot of activities and ways that you gave back to the community and to local veterans. But what were some of those events or salutes or different? I know they weren't always just events. They were wearing a patch on your uniform, doing different kinds of things. Where did those ideas come from, and what were some of those maybe that were your favorite?
For sure. I think sometimes it's a common misconception where you have so many heads together in one space. Sometimes people say like too many cooks in the kitchen, too many this, whatever. But that truly like was never an issue. And I think the way that this initiative was built was just capitalizing on idea after idea. One of my personal favorites was the patch initiative. Getting those donated by local veterans, in and of itself is amazing. They've already made the sacrifice, and now, they're giving back their patch, to be represented and to be remembered that way. So that in and of itself was truly an honor. I was one of the patch wearing athletes. It was on my golf bag. Um, and, I say anytime I talk about this award and this initiative that golf is a very conversational sport. And, just, another player or whatever, seeing it on my golf bag just really gave me the opportunity and the stage to talk about it, and the platform to kind of raise awareness and say that. And then towards the end of the fall and like November on Veterans Day, we really hit it home by bringing, those veterans that are still with us in our community onto campus and actually meeting them. That was a very humbling experience, one that I'll never forget. And it really just tied this whole thing all together so well. So to not only represent our veterans, but to then meet the one that you're representing was really cool. Really blew me away.
Can you explain a little bit more of the details of the patch initiative and how you all were able to incorporate honoring those veterans with all of your sports on campus and what exactly the patch represented and how that kind of worked for each team?
For sure. So coaches were told to kind of get together within their coaching staff or within their program, to nominate, depending on the size of the team, 1 to 2 athletes that really demonstrated, servant leadership, being a role model and being that leadership figure on the team and within the team that embodies work ethic and, sacrifice and things that, they would want to wear the patch. So being able to honor the veterans, but also knowing that, like, my coach chose me for that. My coach sees me as that leader figure and as that role model. Um, it really, really was very humbling, very great compliment to receive. So all of those students, they received the patch. We had one of our SAC advisors apply the patch to either their uniform, like I said, my golf bag. I've seen them used very creatively, so that they are showcased quite a bit. Um, so we had those standout athletes wearing the patches, and then I'll never forget it. I was at a volleyball game, and I knew that this was happening, as those arena type sports, the football games, volleyball games, things like that. The announcers would announce, hi, this is so and so. They have so and so's patch on their jersey. This is the time that we will take to honor these veterans and honor this veteran in particular that's being represented here. I think just those little things that just really draw attention to it. really made the project kind of all come together. So that was kind of logistics wise how we distributed the patches and how they were really showcased sport to sport. And every sport's unique, so we had to get creative in some ways, but like I said, we ensured that everyone kind of was aware of the initiative and the awareness that we were bringing to the veteran community.
What kind of buy-in does it take from a campus and from student athletes and coaches and administrators to make a project like this, especially the patch wearing across 25 sports on your campus? What kind of buy-in does it take, and how, I guess, proud are you of the campus as a whole to be able to come together and do this and get 100% participation from all of your sports when there's so many different moving parts going on during an athletic season, to pull this off and to be able to honor something so special?
For sure. I mean, it truly is an honor. Like you said, there's so many moving parts, and student athletes are busy and get caught up in things so easily, but to have 100% buy-in, to have a very active student body, and for our SAC to be as strong as it is, it humbles me every time I think about it. It really does mean a lot to us. It means a lot to the athletic department, and even just talking to fellow patch wearing students, fellow students on the teams, things like that. Everyone was just so honored to even be a part of it, to know what we were doing. So the buy-in was a huge piece of it, but um, it really was cool to just see it, actively, just on campus, talking to people. People really liked the idea, which really helps with buy-in and things like that. So it was so cool. It was so cool to see.
Well, beyond game day, you guys really honed in on other ways that you could honor veterans. And we've talked a lot about veterans. It wasn't just veterans, active duty members. I mean, you all tried to encompass as many military like people during this initiative as you could. I know that you had like a Patriot Day where there was a home run derby that you brought folks out for. There was a veteran suicide awareness push up challenge that I've seen pictures of that looks like something that I don't know that I would have loved to have participated in, but a great way to honor our veterans and to honor the cause. Can you talk about some of those, I guess, non game day activities? Because as much as you all are student athletes and the game day is a part of what you all do, I think you all have spoken to the fact that you wanted this to be something that really was encompassing of the entire student body and the entire community.
For sure, for sure. I think those events that we held on campus and the local vet centers and veteran resource type organizations that we involved really did help with that buy-in piece that we kind of touched on earlier, where we weren't just impacting the game days and the patch wearing athletes and their teammates. We really wanted it to span further and be a community wide initiative. So having those events, having the Patriot Day home run derby, we actually started that event last year, so it was honestly kind of nice to go into that event knowing that we were specifically kind of tailoring it for the Cav Salute initiative to be a part of that. But to kind of know like what to expect, and like I said, just kind of little things of event planning and things like that. But this year, I mean, just exponentially, it grew. We had so many more communities like Honor Home community initiatives there. We raised money for Honor Home. We took non-perishables. Kids could come and either Venmo me or pay a cash donation to go hit some dingers out on the softball field, or they could bring a non-perishable food item. So being able to impact that way too by giving back really did tie this together along with the patches and all of that too. But we really wanted it to be an all encompassing thing. Same with our salute to service game. That's been a tradition here at Walsh, like I said, with our military background and giving back to those veterans already. But really tailoring it to the Cav salute and bringing that kind of impact and bringing it up to that kind of platform really did elevate things for us. And it was really cool.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that you guys were able to raise a little over $1,600 in cash donations, and you were also able to get a lot of, like you said, non-perishable goods and donations of things for local organizations around the North Canton area. So that is a wonderful thing, and I know that the local organizations are certainly thankful for you all for your support over the last year. And I think, when you introduce folks who may or may not have, maybe they don't have a family member that served in the military, or maybe they don't know a veteran, and they get to interact with folks and learn about some of these stories. And I know President Collins has had a large effect on the campus and some of the stories that he can tell as an Air Force veteran himself. But what kind of impact do you feel like this initiative can have on not only the Walsh University student athletes, but the Walsh University campus and the North Canton community for years to come because of this initiative?
For sure. I think it definitely speaks to us as a SAC and us as, a student athlete body. We've been able to continue a lot of the initiatives that we've put forth for the Award of Excellence. We still do the Fierce Females. That's the one that's kind of popping in my brain right now. But um, we really do try and make it a lasting thing and not just kind of do it for a year and dump it. So I think this will be no different at all. Again, just having that strong background already, and putting on some of the events for as long as we have, it really does kind of shape things for us. I know once we heard the news not too long ago, we were already talking about next year and like how we can kind of make this better, and it really did like get the creative wheels like turning again. But yeah, I mean, I think Walsh will be tapped into this community for a very long time. And it's easy when we're aware of that population now, and we're aware of ways to give back and kind of pay attention and raise awareness, ultimately, to what's out there and whatnot. But I remember running the food items and things, and to some of the facilities, Honor Home being one, getting a tour of that facility that they were so graciously, able to give us on a whim. It was very quick, very brief, but to really get in there and see, what you're impacting and where it's going, it really does mean a lot.
Well, when you talk about the impact that you all have been able to have on the community, we've talked a lot about the 8-year streak of being a finalist for the Award of Excellence, and this kind of being something that is at the forefront, I think, of your SAC's mind every year when you start planning the year out, is what's going to be our initiative and how are we going to set ourselves up for success, because this is an award that means something to us, not necessarily because we need to win the award, but because it's something that gives you all a little bit more of a purpose on campus and something to kind of work for collectively. Where do you feel like that drive has come from? And can you tell us a little bit more about Walsh SAC? And I know you all do way more than just whatever it is that you've selected to potentially be your initiative that year. And but where do you feel like all of that has come from, and how have you all been able to kind of sustain all of that over the basically the better part of a decade?
For sure. I think ultimately it comes from very strong leadership. I remember visiting Walsh as, a prospective student athlete. And one of the main things I took away from Walsh is its very strong base in community service. We really emphasize servant leadership here, not just, in the athletic realm, but in every aspect of this campus community. And so, when you get students that are already bought into that on this campus, and with such a great foundation that Walsh kind of provides for us, and with leaders that really emphasize that. I know Christina Payon, President Collins, Josh Ruiz, I mean, um, Alexis Green, Katie O'Connell. I mean, they've all been very instrumental in kind of guiding us as a student body and helping us out from a faculty and administrative position as well. But when you have all those people in your right corner, I think you're bound to make great things happen and make great strides and impact things in a very, very positive way. So I really do think it starts from the ground up, and tapping into those communities that we know that we have a lot of, here in our local community as well.
Well, Sophia, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and thanks so much for sharing a little bit about what goes on kind of behind the scenes. It's nice to read a little bit about a blurb, whether it be on Walsh's website, or you can find some more information about all of the finalists as well as all three place getters on NCAA.org. But we certainly love getting a little bit of insight into the brains of the operation and how you all kind of come up with some of this stuff. And we're already excited to see what you all are planning for your next initiative next school year. And it's always nice. To see our SACs be able to give back to their communities as well. So, congratulations once again for all your hard work, all the hard work of the SAC, and all the buy in from the student athletes, and to Walsh and the North Canton community for such a prestigious award. We're excited to have you all representing the GMAC as well.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
It starts from the moment you enter the court. We're there to serve, make sure we're creating a fair atmosphere for both teams, upholding the integrity of the game.
I chose to be an official when I was a senior in high school, 17 years old. I think it's the best decision I've made. You could play, and you could make extra money on the weekends on the side, and why not?
In life, things aren't scripted. Games aren't pre-scripted. I got into officiating because my father was an official. Officiating was part of our family life. It wasn't just the game.
Get to be outside, get to experience the game. It's so much more fun. You can get a lot out of it.
If you're an athlete, we need people like you and young athletes who can translate those skills to officiating.
So much of officiating is not necessarily what you do on the court. It's how you conduct business off the court as well. Being an official, sure, it's not easy.
And if it wasn't for those difficulties, I don't think I would be where I'm at, because it helped me become not only a better official, but a better person.
It happens in every town, in every game.
We never have a perfect game, but the rewards always outweigh the negativities.
And it's just been wonderful.
Well, thanks for staying with us. We are pleased to now be joined by Josh Ruiz, the coordinator of Veteran Affairs at Walsh University, who also played a little bit of a part in this. As you heard Sophia kind of mention his involvement in the department, their involvement in Walsh's Salute to Service initiative. Josh, thanks again for taking some time to chat with us today. But I know you heard the news as well that Walsh had been awarded this award of excellence, and not sure how much you know on that side of campus about how involved they have been with this award and being a finalist for so many years, and then finally getting that first place finish this year. But what were kind of your thoughts when you heard the news, and being on maybe not the athletic side of campus, but just to know that Walsh University was bringing back such a prestigious award from the NCAA?
Oh, it was extremely exciting. Obviously, I was honored to be a part of it, and they approached me with it in the summer, just kind of asking me if I would, be involved with it. And for me, I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I went to school here. I thought it was something that, as kind of a long time coming. The president of the university is a veteran, so from the top to the bottom, it's something that we truly believe in, and the entire campus felt that win. We were ecstatic about it, especially with the amount of athletes that we have on campus. You could see people cheering down the halls almost. I think it's something that, everybody really, really, try to embody while we were doing it and while we're still doing it. So for us to bring that, that first place finish back this year, it was phenomenal.
Well, Sophia mentioned that every year, and I think with our involvement with each of our campuses, SAC, we hear rumblings and hear about the things that they're doing on campus. And obviously, Walsh has been one of our many schools who uh, puts an application together for this every year, and we've been fortunate to have multiple finalists in some years. And but Walsh's name is always in there, and so I know it's something that when the SAC gets together and they have conversations in the summer, they start brainstorming ideas. She said this was something that, I think you mentioned too, had been a long time coming because Walsh has been so veteran or military focused. And she did mention President Collins and his just interactions with students and student athletes on campus with some of the stories that he has from his time in the Air Force. But what kind of were those conversations as far as planning and stuff were concerned, and what kind of resource could you and your office be for the SAC and the advisors over there and some of the student athletes as far as what was going to be useful and beneficial when honoring veterans and even active duty military?
Yeah. So I would say that we had been working with athletics, at least my office has, for the past couple years that I've been here. We had done a salute to service game prior. We kind of talked about how we can honor veterans in the community and kind of bring that, the community into Walsh, and we thought this was a great time to do it. Obviously, like you've already mentioned, they've been a finalist for a few years. And when they brought the idea to me, I was like, these are some of the events that we can put together that I think will have great community involvement, have active duty military come out. And it was truly, I was just more or less an advisor, being at the helm with some of the events, but the students were the catalyst. The SAC they were truly the ones, putting a lot of effort and a lot of, boots to ground, if you will, just to make sure things were happening. They were We had teams going out to a couple of organizations in the area, like Honor Home, which is a transition home for homeless veterans, and the Serving Area Military SAM Center, that provides transition kits and provides a food pantry and do Thanksgiving kits for veterans who are in need that can't do that for their families. So it was something that the students really, really took in, and they jumped on quickly. There was a lot of enthusiasm involved from everything that we did.
Sophia talked a lot about the patches that the teams wore and a lot of what they did during game days to honor, some of which they were already doing. The salute to service game, I know, is something the football team has been doing for some time. And I know they had the Patriot Day home run derby in years past. So there were some things that they were already doing to honor the military. But she said the patch thing was something that, because she was a student athlete that got to wear said patch for the women's golf team, that it was something that she really enjoyed and really embodied. But I know that there were several things that went into this entire initiative. Can you talk about some of those events and really, from your aspect and knowing where you work in the realm of veteran affairs, the impact that can have on the veteran community in North Canton and the surrounding areas around Walsh University?
Absolutely. I mean, and to start with, Stark County is one of the densest community with veterans in the state of Ohio. And Ohio is an extremely veteran-friendly state, so we had a lot of people and a lot of population to work with here. So for me, one of the biggest events that we wanted to put on was the suicide awareness event. I talk about that a little bit in some of the previous videos that 22 veterans a day kill themselves. It's one about every 65 minutes. And when this was brought to me, I was like, this is a great way for the students to get involved and really start bringing awareness to, scars that you can't see, scars that are under the skin, if you will. And for them to want to wear the patches of veterans, that speaks to not only those vets and the community, but the family of those veterans, the families that may have lost somebody, whether it's overseas or a battle that they lost here. All that does is it brings a sense of pride to the university and to that student. And then when those students got to meet those veterans that they were wearing the patches for, or that they, were wearing the patches for that veteran's family, it was a really, emotional experience in some ways. And like I said, being a veteran myself, it's near and dear to me. So, I was just happy to kind of be a part of it. The students themselves, they were the ones out there, and they've worn it with pride, and they've excelled in everything that they've done this past fall for the Award of Excellence. It's something that's everybody could feel across campus, and it really lifted Walsh's reputation within the veteran community. Obviously, we already had a great one, but for the students to want to do this and be able to talk about this, the prowess of these students was just it was amazing.
From your position that you hold as a veteran yourself, but also as a coordinator of veteran affairs on campus, and just your dealings with some of these programs around Stark County and around the state that do help veterans and their families and whatnot. Um, what does it mean to have a group of 20 somethings get together and really put their community service and their free time, which as student athletes, they have very little of sometimes, but
Of
to put
course,
their
yeah.
free time into a project like this, what do you feel like that says about the SAC on Walsh's campus?
It says they know what freedom stands for and who it stands for. They know that, whether they at the beginning of the year or not, that they knew that, we had heroes among us, or, that there were student veterans on campus that didn't want to talk about their experiences. They know that they did something that's meaningful, and that's, they're the reason that we're able to have some of the great freedoms that we have. And I think that's truly what it meant. And I think a lot of the students got to grasp the understanding of that.
From an education standpoint, which I'm sure you do a little of or a lot of in what you do for maybe students who don't have, maybe it's family members or they don't know a veteran, or maybe they don't have military in their family, so they hear these things. We know about Veterans Day. There are things in our lives that are military adjacent, whether we know someone or not. But to what kind of impact can this have on an education standpoint for a campus like Walsh, for the community to hear these things, and for some of these student athletes and students to be able to experience and be exposed to some of what you do on an everyday basis and some of what our veterans and active military members are doing on a daily basis and some of the things that they've gone through in their lives?
I think obviously the impact is positive. We've had gotten great feedback, obviously, from the organizations that we were helping, from the staff and faculty that are veterans themselves or military affiliated, and the military affiliated students that aren't veterans that their parents were and they're using their parents' benefits here, or that their parents, or their grandparents have served. And I think a few students spoke about that they're just honored to be able to be a part of that and be able to be attached to their service. I think us as a university, we believe in servant leadership, and that's a lot of what the military is. Like, we're sacrificing a portion of who we are for, the greater purpose, the greater good, and I think that's what a lot of the students came to recognize.
Well, Sophia said that when they have these brainstorming sessions and they come up with these initiatives, and whether it be something that they put forth for the award of excellence or it's just something that SAC decides they're going to do and they see success in it, it's not something that they do for 1 year and then they say, well, it's on to the next thing, we're going to do something else. They really do try and keep some aspects of this. There are some things that they've been finalists for this award that they are still doing years later. What kind of impact can Walsh continue to have on the military community in North Canton, and how can this initiative really kind of snowball and set um, what you do up for success?
I think it's just a continuation of what we're doing now. And I think year over year, when we're building, building that tradition, building that lineage that is Walsh, it's going to go hand in hand with military service or, honoring veterans. Those are things that is just gonna, like I said, gonna be a continuation, whether it's volunteering in the community and helping out at the SAM Center, like the students have in the past, but not to the capacity we were able to this year. Understanding that, maybe now we can send students to help out veterans at the transition homes that, may have a physical ailment, need physical therapy, because these are all things that the students are going to be doing no matter what. Why not do it within that community? Holding a tradition like students wearing the patches, why not be able to get all the teams and everybody on the team to be up represent a unit in the military? That's what that is. It's an extension of that, that honorable unit that may be First Marine Division or, Third CEB, whatever it may be from whatever branch of service it is. Those units are here with us now. We're a part of that history for them. And they're a part of Walsh's history as well.
Well, we've talked a lot about some of the different initiatives that the student athletes were able to be a part of, some of the ideas that they came up with, whether it be in the title that you hold on campus at Walsh, or just because you're a veteran yourself. Is there a moment or a story or something from this last year that you'd like to share that you feel like was really impactful and really kind of illustrates what the Cavs salute to service meant to the veterans and to the Walsh University community?
There's a lot. Hearing Sophia and Dante speak at the veterans dinner where all the students, got to meet their veterans, or knowing that one of our baseball players, he's wearing his dad's patch, things like that. And they obviously, they pull on the heartstrings. Those are all going to be very memorable. I'm fortunate enough to be, obviously a veteran myself and a Walsh alum, but so is my wife, and her patch was involved. So getting to see all these people who are tied in the community, stay tied into Walsh, and Walsh honoring them years later or decades later, it's an amazing thing to be a part of. So just seeing the students' reaction and seeing them in their uniforms and wearing those patches with pride is probably the most memorable piece of all.
Well, I know when there's cross campus collaboration, I think it's always something that's really special. But what has your experience been like getting to work with SAC in a maybe more in depth capacity over the last 12 months or so? And, getting to experience and getting to know some of these student athletes that are on campus every day that I'm sure you cross paths with at some point.
Yeah.
But being an alum yourself, just what does all that mean to be able to come together? I know the athletic department works very closely together, but when multiple facets of campus can come together and do something for the greater good, I think it makes something like this even more special sometimes.
I think what it does for me is it reinforces my faith in the leadership of tomorrow. It reinforces my faith in what the university stands for. Um, you know, Servant leadership and community and family, these are all words that we talk about, but for the students to come out and truly embody what that means, and for you to see it with your own eyes, knowing that they're, honoring a brotherhood, a sisterhood, that's something that is irreplaceable. So, it just reinforces everything that I already thought about, Walsh University, and reinforces everything that I thought about athletics. Obviously, I'm a fan, I'm a big fan, went to the football games, love sports as a whole, but this just brought a whole new meaning to that.
Well, Josh, we certainly appreciate you sharing your perspective today, and thank you for your service and your wife's service. And I know it probably makes you an extra step proud to know that you're an alum of the university as well. But we appreciate all you do and all you've done for our country, and sharing a little bit of insight of what this initiative meant to you and to your role on campus. And we appreciate you lending your services to the SAC as well. This is a special award for Walsh, and we're really, really excited and blessed to have you guys representing the GMAC as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And, it was an honor to do.